Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Badger Nerdworks Presents We Watched a Movie. My name is Finn, this is Brandon.
What's up?
And this video, it's going to contain spoilers for both The Dark Tower, the movie, and the series of books by Stephen King. So just so you guys know, major spoiler alerts right here up front. We're going to delve into some deep stuff on today's episode. Again, we just stated we are doing The Dark Tower. Just came out this weekend. Brandon and I just got through watching it, and we are going to go very extensively into it and its source material. Brandon, what were your thoughts as a first time, this is your first exposure to this franchise altogether thing?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Stephen King, but I put aside The Dark Tower until it was just going to be completely done and over, and I could read it all at once. So I've purposely avoided everything about it up to this point. My first impression was it was very different than what I was expecting. I was like, oh, Stephen King, this is going to be a horror movie. This is going to be full of terrifying visages with the child. Not so much. I got more the sense that it was like if John Woo had directed The Neverending Story. It's about this kid out of his world, and he meets this mystic knight who can carry him through him, and wields Excalibur, but been reformed into 45s that he wastes things with. He's like a paladin. There's something kind of epically magical about him. Same thing with the kid. He has The Shining and sees another world and the knight he needs in order to save his world. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really fun. I thought Idris Elba was super charismatic in the role that he played. Matthew McConaughey was great as evil, right? There's a part where he even talks about how someone's real wise to choose a beautiful face. He's like, oh, if you have a beautiful face, things come so easily. Mm-hmm. And that almost makes sense why he's in the McConaughey persona. Right. He's it just makes it easier if you walk around looking like
this. Right.
Yeah, exactly. People assume you're a movie star and let you in. But no, all in all, I thought it was pretty fun. It clearly covered a ton of stuff. This movie moved. They hit a story point, they found the solution, they moved on. So I imagine it tore through a ton of source material. I remember thinking that as I was watching, I was like, man, they put everything in its mother in this. But because of that, it makes for great popcorn viewing, which was not what I was expecting. I think this would be a fun movie, even to take a teenager to. It wasn't nearly as brutal or savage as I was expecting, especially given the really apocalyptic overtones. But all in all, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was good popcorn viewing.
Okay, and I will give you that, I think in some ways, yes, as just a movie by itself, this movie still can kind of work and can be enjoyed. As a movie that is supposed to be a full representation of what those books are about, this movie fails on just about every single level. Roland and his quest is so different in this movie beyond what they had to do to cram 7 books in the original series. Okay.
Right.
And 8 if you include one that he just recently, within the last 6 or 7 years, wrote that was a follow-up that kind of took place in between 2 other books. And in the original story, Roland's Quest is the Dark Tower. Everything else doesn't matter. Nothing else matters to him. But making it to the tower, breaching the doors of the tower. In the original first few books, you're never really quite clear of why he needs to go to the tower. And the Man in Black, Walter, or Randall Flagg, because he's also Randall Flagg.
Right, totally.
He doesn't even really matter so much. He's an antagonist that doesn't matter in a way, if that makes sense. Because what Roland's Quest is not even focused on or even dealing with that guy, other than a few moments of yes, he does want to get vengeance on him for reasons that are explained as the story goes on. He was responsible for, yes, the death of his father. It doesn't happen the way that it happens in the movie, obviously. This movie, yes, it wrecked a car through 7 books worth of continuity and just grabbed things as it was going through, is what it did. There's aspects in this movie that are in the books, that are taken directly from the books. The Cantui are taken from the books. The kind of rat-looking, weird, birdie people.
How much, All right, because this book, I guess I was expecting a bunch of walking through a desert with a guy with like 20 bullets left or something.
First book is exactly
right?
that.
Like, that's what I was expecting.
Right.
And that wasn't it. We just
And,
jumped right into like time traveling through worlds and just like
and that
gates
was another thing.
and
Yeah, that's
psychic
another
kid
thing.
who knows what's going
it's
on.
It's like how much, well, and how much everybody knew what was going on. How much everybody in Midworld knows about.
Oh yeah, they just
teleporting
got
between
on
worlds.
board.
They all
he just
know
like
about
had to
it.
go like across
exactly.
the woods. He's like, the woods are real scary. Things will try to kill us.
Things are going to try to kill us, but we're just going to go over here across to the woods.
They got a sage over there. It'll read the magical picture you gave me.
Yeah,
and
then we'll get a portal and we'll go through.
So like, how many books is that? Like,
that's, I mean, for they don't even like. That's the thing is Roland. Like,
does that stuff even happen?
Well, it does, but it doesn't. So Roland isn't even aware of the existence of other realities in the beginning of the story. Like, he doesn't understand that. Just as anybody else wouldn't understand that. You're not going to get that right off the bat.
Right.
Jake Chambers Jake Chambers in the first book, he's dead. He died, and then he ended up here. He ended up in Midworld, where the story is taking place. That's how he ended up in Midworld in the original books, in the first moment that he goes through. Because Jake Chambers both dies and returns twice, but when actually dies 3 times. The first time is like he dies and then he wakes up in Midworld. The Man in Black is there and he and the Man in Black have this moment. And then he ends up meeting up with Roland and he travels around with Roland and becomes part of Roland's party through the rest of that book. Then he dies close to the end of that book, like right before the end of that book, he dies. And he kind of sacrifices himself so that Roland can continue on going. They get like attacked by these mutant dudes who are low men, and they're kind of like both inbred radioactive, like hillbilly, hills have eyes people, but they're also kind of like zombies too.
Right.
And they get attacked by them, and Jake gives himself over to be eaten and consumed. That way Roland can continue on and like something happens.
Yeah, that's like 7 or 8 magnitudes darker than anything that is going to happen in the movie we saw.
Dude.
Like, it was far more popcorn than that. At no point was it like, oh, maybe some mutants are going to eat that kid.
Right.
Like, if that was supposed to be like a lingering fear, I was like, no, he's going to get out of this because he's a clever kid and he's got the shine.
And he's right. And that whole thing of him having the shine, that's not anywhere. Like, that's not that character. They took the Jake Chambers of this movie is 4 different other characters, including 2 different versions of Jake Chambers from the original books, melded into one character.
Into like, one delightful 10-year-old. Yes, they're like,
they took, like, because there's a character that's from a whole other book called Insomnia, and he is an artist, and he is the one who is doing art based on and about Roland and the tower and all this, and he's doing these paintings and whatnot, and he ends up later popping up in the final book to help Roland defeat. And that's another thing, the Crimson King, you saw that thing that said all hail the Crimson King, right? Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea who he was. I assumed it was a reference to Walden.
Walter. That's Walter. But also Randall Flagg and the Man in Black, whatever.
Right. The darkest force in the universe.
Right. In that movie, yeah. And in the first book, yes, in a way, he is the main villain of the first book. But the bad guy is so much more expansive and so much more grandiose than that. And it is the Crimson King. That's on that wall, and then there's nothing else about it. They don't bother to pick it
I don't know.
up.
They never call him that.
They never call anybody.
I mean, everyone seems to know they have to speak to him just right because he does. But he is pretty.
But that's the thing.
Awesomely
He's
murderous.
not the Crimson King.
Oh yeah.
He's a servant of the Crimson King. And now, granted, he has his own agenda and he's working his own plan.
Do you think they have aspirations at future movies? Like, do you think this is something they're trying to...
I don't know, dude. Honestly, I don't know what they were trying to do with this other than just hold on to the property. That's really what this felt like. This felt like Roger Corman, Fantastic Four. We want to hold on to the property, so we're just going to throw this movie together. It's a hell of a lot to think that they would be able to take those books and make them into a trilogy of films. it's even more to think, and this feels like what they were trying to do with the structure of this film, that they could take all 8 of those books and make them one movie. That's just, that's insane. That's a lot of material. Like the Blues Brothers movie, where they crash into the mall,
yeah,
and they're running through the mall. It felt like they were doing that, but just grabbing things off the racks. You know, but that mall is the whole of the Gunslinger story and the Dark Tower story, and they're just grabbing. Well, we'll take this. Well, you know, we'll take Shine over here, and we'll take this over here. We'll take these characters and these bad guys, and we'll just, you know, and it just was haphazard. And as far as an adaptation, it definitely fails on a lot of levels. Like I say, as far as an action, just background popcorn movie, maybe it works. I don't know. It's hard for me to judge it that way.
Right. No, it would be. It'd be very difficult to see it from the far view because, yeah, from what you're telling me, it's a totally different beast. And this was a very specific beast. Like I said, like I totally count like a John Woo movie.
Yeah.
This is about like slick gunfights and slick shooting and nice close-ups and clean-cut scenes
clever
that lead to like...
Yeah.
motion and action. Right. It was very non-convoluted. It was very straightforward in how the evil worked, what it wanted, how it was achieving it.
I think.
Like just straight up, you got it. He was kidnapping kids. He was using their like imaginations or their capacity to like fear. Whatever all the darkness
psychic ability.
Right, their psychic, their shine to like blast down the dark tower. And you're like, that's straightforward. It's a kid mortar. And you need kids to make this mortar that knocks that thing down. They're going to keep eating children.
And that
you
was
don't want them to win.
That was like, the dress off the rack of plot from Forever 21 that they snatched off of it as they were squalling through that song.
Jack Earl Haley and like that one skinless guy, when they go to collect him, when they first try and take the main character off to an asylum, and he realizes that like these are these horrible creature things and they've come to get me, he bails out the roof, and the guy who's driving him just goes Jackie Chan up the thing behind him, and the parents are like, oh my gosh, what was that? They're like, we'll get him back.
And like, the dad's story is so weirdly convoluted and flipped and strange in this movie versus what was in the book. And you know, again, I hope that it's a good way for them to get enough buzz talked about it, but it's not a good adaptation. It is not.
I think it's probably a real bad adaptation, tragically held in a fairly good popcorn movie, because I found it entertaining. I think kids are going to dig this, and I think they'll get it when they're like 10 to 14, and they'll be like, that's awesome, and just the right level of brutal that like, kind of like how it wasn't like really graphic. You know, it's like a TV movie, so it wasn't really graphic, but it was terrifying. I think the same thing with this. It's kind of creepy, but it's not really like graphically brutal.
Over the top.
The violence is relatively... It's like people getting shot, but we're so desensitized to that. We're like, oh, he got shot.
For me, it's a matter more of you know, the amount of plot and the amount of characters and the amount of things that happen throughout that entire story that are lost from that story when you boil it down to its most basic elements of Roland the Man in Black and you know, psychic kids trying to destroy the beams and they didn't even talk about the beams. They didn't even really talk about the beams.
No, they just demonstrated it.
You know, they just exactly.
They're like, you strap them into things, you suck them out,
and it doesn't feel genuine. And I went into that with no qualms about this movie. I felt this is a new version of the story. Let me accept it and enjoy it the way it is. And it just...
I totally get where that'd be, but I think that's why it'd be good to do it in reverse. Like, cause I think you could enjoy it and then go back on. It reminds me much of, like, Watchmen. You know, like, a lot of people have a problem because they were so invested in the original ending. But then if you saw it without it, it was totally plausible to totally enjoy that and be like... Oh, that was way simpler. And then, like, later on you discover the actual one inside the actual written text, which is why we love written text.
Right, of course.
And it's not a movie. Yeah, getting to spend hundreds of hours with a character is clearly better than getting to spend, like, 2 hours with a character. The amount that you can learn. Yeah, because that movie flew by.
This movie was an hour and a half long. But I don't know. Again, for me, the biggest thing is just that, you know, like I say, my hope is that this will spur some interest in the franchise, and that even if this is not necessarily one of the better interpretations, this is still an interpretation and has gotten those characters out there to a bigger audience so that maybe there will be some push to do more with it and to explore more and explore the other realms of reality that they talk about and do reference in this movie. So
yeah, because I feel like it had one of the cool things I felt about this movie was it was like a bigger Stephen King movie. Like if you ever kind of like wanted to like wonder what was going on in Stephen King's head, I felt like that was kind of almost mirrored over the top of this movie. It was fun for me. It does make me more interested in reading the original text. I mean, I was already kind of sold, but like I'm glad I saw this first because I could totally see how this could be a disappointment because it is a roller coaster ride.
Hey everybody, it's Ben. Thanks for watching that episode of We Watched a Movie. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down in the comment section down below. If you want to receive notifications about when our next video uploads, go ahead and click the bell icon as well. Go ahead and check out our other videos right over here to the left. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
See ya.